so they will be comforted. Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. The saying is sure, if we have died with him, we shall live with him. If we endure, we shall also reign with him. If we deny him, he will also deny us. If we are faithless, he remains faithful, for he cannot deny himself. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him may not perish, but have eternal life. Since children have flesh and blood, he too shared in their humanity, so that by his death he might destroy he who holds the power of death, and that is the devil. To him who overcomes, I will give him the right to sit with me on the throne.
Good afternoon, all. To the family, to the leadership and our spiritual leaders at All Saints Cathedral, I'd like to first say thank you very much for sharing this moment with us. And a big thank you to Stephen, to Elizabeth, to Dorcas and Jane for sharing their dad with us, because we equally feel as if we are sons of the late Mr. Mburia. I stand here to honor an educationist, a teacher, a mentor, and a father figure to me. And when they said that I shall be giving a tribute, I did not have to think much of what I had to say about my former head teacher. The words just were flowing out of me. And when I sat down to pen them down, the first word that came to my mind was the gentleman. Mr. Mburia was a gentleman. And if that was not the opening line of my tribute, then that tribute would not have been a tribute of the Mr. Mburia I knew. He was a gentleman in how he wore, how his demeanor was, how he presented himself, and even how he dressed. Stories have been told here of how even if there was an emergency in school, even at 3 a.m. in the morning, Mr. Mburia would show up impeccably dressed in a suit. Ladies and gentlemen, to those of us who are his students, we are eulogizing a man who was also a father to us. Mr. Mburia was as concerned about the bigger picture as he was about the finer detail. And that made him a really good headmaster, and at the same time, a very good chemistry teacher. But beyond that, he had a passion for the things that were beyond the classroom. Mr. Mburia headed Dagoreti High School in its glory years. Mr. Mohia is here, and he will actually attest to this. Mr. Mburia gave good leadership in the academic field. It was in his times when he was leading Dagoreti High School that we were able to, for the first time, appear in the newspapers among the finest schools in this country. It is around the same time that my former school earned the tag, the Talent Academy. Many boys from this time were able to perform very well academically, and they have gone on to be captains of industry in corporate Kenya, but also in political leadership. His students are leading corporate Kenya. His students are holding positions in government. His students are actually even leading in the political sphere. It was this time at Dagoreti High School that Mr. Mburia started the culture of extracurricular being the driver of the name of Dagoreti High School. When he was headmaster, Dagoreti High School performed very well in the music, the drama, science congress, and other extracurricular activities. Mr. Mburia was good at branding. And I say this as a person who is in the communications industry. Mr. Mburia knew how to brand himself. He branded very well in how he acted, how he spoke, how he dressed, and even how he presented himself. And it has been spoken here before about the things people remember that were very intimately associated to Mr. Mburia. Funny that the best thing that he branded was his family. Mr. Mburia is remembered because he was Mrs. Milka's husband. There were even jokes in school about how he fondly would call his wife from his office, and his wife at that time is at their house, which is in the same compound in the school. And because he would work very late in the evening, he would call his wife, and boys would make fun of how he would refer to his wife very fondly as Miuka. This is Stephen's mom. Well, we all remember his branding. We all remember his Peugeot 504, the blue one. We even remember your dog, Simba, which Mr. Mburia referred to as Shimba. So the boys in high school called it Shimbe. It is at the time when Mr. Mburia was headmaster at Dagoreti High School that the school started appearing as the school that it was supposed to be. Dagoreti High School at that moment was the only provincial boarding school for boys. And Mr. Mburia believed, Pastor M, Mr. Mburia believed that Dagoreti High School, being a provincial school, could be as good as Nairobi School, if not better. He introduced branding to us. He told us we cannot show up at functions wearing funny shorts and short-sleeved sweaters. And we ended up having a uniform #1 in Dagoreti High School. That's how we got our blue blazers, we got our scarf, we got our long-sleeved shirts, and we appeared at functions in trousers. Mr. Mburia encouraged us to go beyond our academics. That's how I ended up in drama, ended up in music, and see where that took me. Mr. Mburia molded us from being boys and made men out of us. I personally will be eternally indebted to this great educationist, great teacher, great mentor, because I remember that he kept me in school and my brother at a time when my parents had great difficulty paying school fees. And to some extent, I'll also say a big thank you to Mr. Mohia, who is here, because our family went to Dagoreti High School and Upper Hill High School, where Mr. Mohia ended up being a headmaster later and a father to my younger brothers. If you'll allow me just 1 minute, because I stand here representing the people of the Dagoreti South constituency and saying thank you for the great service that this man gave to our constituency. I'd like to just ask Godwin Karuga, a family friend, to just say one word on behalf of the former Dagoreti High School boys.
Only 1 minute now.